Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished the last plate of the evening rush. The kitchen around him buzzed with activity as his team cleaned up after serving 300 customers. Steam rose from the dishwashing station, while the prep cooks stored ingredients for tomorrow. This was his world, and he ruled it with quiet authority for 15 years. Jake had worked his way up from a line cook to head chef at Romano's, one of New York City's most famous restaurants. His hands moved with practiced precision as he cleaned his knife set, each blade getting the same careful attention he gave to every detail in his kitchen. The 10-inch German steel chef's knife gleamed under the fluorescent lights as he ran the sharpening steel along its edge one final time. "Another perfect service, chef," said Danny, his sous chef, as he hung up his apron. 297 plates, 0 complaints, and the food critics from the Times looked happy when they left. Jake nodded but didn't smile. He never celebrated until the last customer left and the kitchen was spotless. That's what separated good chefs from great ones. Details mattered. Timing mattered. Pressure either made you stronger or broke you completely. The knife felt perfect in his hand as he tested its sharpness on a piece of paper. The blade sliced through without any resistance. Jake had learned long ago that a dull knife was dangerous. But a sharp one was a tool of precision. He could fillet a fish in 30 seconds, dice an onion so fine it looked like snow, or carve a roast into perfect slices without wasting a single piece of meat. His phone buzzed on the counter. Jake glanced at the screen and saw a number he didn't recognize. Most chefs ignored unknown calls during cleanup, but something made him answer. Jake Martinez. "Mr. Martinez, this is Colonel Patricia Hayes from the United Nations Space Command. I know this sounds unusual, but we need to talk." Jake almost hung up. Prank calls were common in the restaurant business, especially late at night. But the woman's voice carried an authority that made him pause. "What about?" "The cultural exchange program with the Galactic Council. Your application was selected. We need you to represent Earth's culinary traditions to an alien species called the Zephyrians." Jake sat down hard on a prep table. 6 months ago, he had filled out an application almost as a joke. The government had asked for volunteers to demonstrate human culture to aliens. Jake figured cooking was as human as anything else, so he applied. He never expected to hear back. "Are you serious?" "Completely. You leave in 3 days. Pack light. A ship has everything you need except your personal knives and any special tools. The mission briefing is tomorrow at 0800 hours. Jake's mind raced. Leave Earth? Travel to an alien world? Cook for beings he had never seen? It sounded insane, but also like the adventure of a lifetime. "I'll need to find someone to cover the restaurant." "Already handled. The government will compensate Romanos for any losses." "This is important, Mr. Martinez. First contact protocols are delicate. We need someone who can work under pressure and represent humanity well." After hanging up, Jake stood in his empty kitchen and tried to process what had just happened. In 3 days, he would leave everything he knew behind. The thought terrified and excited him in equal measure. The next morning, Jake found himself in a sterile government building listening to Colonel Hayes explain the mission. The Zephyrians were a warrior race that had reluctantly agreed to cultural exchanges with newer members of the Galactic Council. They were proud, traditional, and somewhat suspicious of humans. "They see us as weak," Colonel Hayes explained, pulling up holographic images of the aliens. "They're nearly 8 feet tall, have 4 arms, and their entire culture revolves around honor and combat. They agreed to this exchange as a formality, not because they're interested in human culture." Jake studied the images. The Zephyrians looked like walking crystals, their bodies covered in translucent armor that seemed to grow from their skin. Their faces were angular and sharp, with 4 eyes that glowed with inner light. "What exactly do they want me to do?" "Cook for their High Council. Show them that humans have skills worth respecting." It sounds simple, but the political implications are enormous. If this goes well, we get trade agreements and protection. If it goes badly, we might find ourselves alone in a very dangerous galaxy. Jake spent the next 2 days preparing. He selected his best knives, including his prized chef's knife that had never let him down. He researched what little was known about Zephyrian culture and tried to plan a menu that would impress beings who had never tasted food as humans understood it. The ship that would carry him to the Zephyrian homeworld was called the New Horizon, a sleek vessel designed for diplomatic missions. Captain Lewis Grant welcomed Jake aboard with a firm handshake and a worried expression. "I'll be honest with you, Chef, the Zephyrians barely tolerate our presence. They think we're primitive and weak. Your job is to prove them wrong without starting a war." Jake's cabin was small but comfortable, with a porthole that showed the stars sliding past as they traveled faster than light. He spent the 2-week journey practicing his knife skills and trying to imagine what awaited him on an alien world. The other crew members were polite but distant. Jake understood why. If he failed, the consequences would affect everyone. The weight of representing all humanity pressed down on him like the heat from a busy kitchen during the dinner rush. As they approached the Zephyrian homeworld, Jake stood at the observation deck and watched the alien planet grow larger. It looked like a giant crystal, its surface reflecting light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Cities rose from the surface like geometric mountains, all angles and sharp edges. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Captain Grant joined him at the window. "And completely hostile to human life. The atmosphere is breathable, but everything else about this place is designed to kill soft-skinned species like us." Jake nodded, his hand instinctively moving to touch the knife case at his side. Whatever happened on the surface, he would face it with the tools he trusted most. After 15 years of working under pressure, he had learned one simple truth: preparation and skill could overcome almost any challenge. The ship began its descent toward the Crystal City, and Jake Martinez prepared to cook the most important meal of his life. The landing platform felt like stepping onto a sheet of ice. Jake's boots slipped slightly on the crystal surface as he followed Captain Grant down the ship's ramp. The Zephyrian city stretched around them in all directions, towers of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. The air tasted sharp and clean, almost like breathing liquid metal. 3 Zephyrians waited for them at the platform's edge. Jake tried not to stare, but seeing them in person was completely different from the holographic images. They towered over the humans, their forearms moving in slow, graceful patterns. Their crystalline skin caught the light and threw it back in rainbow patterns that made Jake's eyes water. The center Zephyrian stepped forward. His voice came from somewhere deep in his chest, a sound like rocks grinding together. "I am Commander Thexville. You are the human food maker." Jake felt Captain Grant's hand on his shoulder, a gentle reminder to be respectful. "Yes, sir, I'm Jake Martinez." "I'm honored to be here." "Honor." Thexville's 4 eyes focused on Jake with obvious dislike. "We shall see if humans understand the meaning of that word. Follow." They walked through streets that looked like the inside of a giant geode. Buildings grew from the ground rather than being built, their walls transparent and shifting. Other Zephyrians moved past them, all tall and graceful, their forearms carrying weapons or tools that looked like they were made from the same crystal as their bodies. Jake noticed that every Zephyrian they passed carried at least one blade. Some had swords strapped to their backs, others had curved knives on their belts. Children who looked barely old enough to walk held training weapons that would have been deadly in human hands. "They really are a warrior culture," Captain Grant whispered. "Every single one of them is armed." The warriors' keep rose from the center of the city like a massive crystal mountain. Its walls were so clear that Jake could see all the way through to the other side, where more crystal buildings caught and reflected the light. Guards stood at every entrance, their weapons gleaming in the strange light. Inside, the keep was even more impressive. The ceiling stretched up so high that Jake couldn't see the top. Galleries and platforms jutted out from the walls at different levels, connected by bridges that looked like they were made of solid light. Hundreds of Zephyrians filled the spaces, all watching the human visitors with cold curiosity. "The demonstration hall," Thexville announced as they entered a circular room with a raised platform in the center. Here, you will show us these food-making skills your species claims to possess. Jake looked around the room and felt his stomach drop. Stadium seating surrounded the central platform, and every seat was filled with Zephyrians. Their crystalline faces showed no expression, but Jake could feel their judgment like a physical weight. This wasn't a cooking demonstration, this was a trial. The equipment you requested, Vexville gestured to a collection of devices on the platform. We have attempted to recreate your primitive tools. Jake climbed onto the platform and examined what the Zephyrians had provided. The cutting boards were made of some kind of crystal that felt warm to the touch. The knives were sharp but balanced wrong, clearly made by beings who didn't understand how humans used such tools. The cooking surfaces were too high and angled incorrectly. These will work, Jake said, though he knew they wouldn't. He would have to adapt just like he did when working with broken equipment during a busy service. We have also provided ingredients, Dexville continued. Materials that should be familiar to your species. Jake looked at the ingredients and tried to hide his concern. The vegetables looked right but felt wrong when he touched them. The meat was the wrong color and texture. Everything had been chosen by beings who had never tasted food, only analyzed it chemically. The High Council will observe your demonstration, Dexville announced. They will judge whether your species possesses any skills worthy of respect. The High Council entered through a doorway that hadn't been there moments before. 6 Zephyrians, each one larger and more intimidating than the last, took their seats on a raised platform. Their crystalline armor was more elaborate, covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Jake began to unpack his own knives, the familiar weight of his tools calming his nerves. He had cooked for food critics, celebrity chefs, and demanding customers. This was just another service, just another crowd to impress. Before you begin, a new voice cut through the air like a blade through silk. I would make a request. The entire hall fell silent. A Zephyrian unlike any Jake had seen before stepped onto the platform, where the others moved with controlled grace. This one flowed like water. Her forearms held no weapons, but something about her presence made Jake's survival instincts scream danger. I am Kalthara, first blade of the Zephyrian people, she announced. I have never known defeat in single combat. I have faced the champions of 17 worlds and emerged victorious from each encounter. Jake's mouth went dry. This wasn't part of the plan. Captain Grant was already moving toward the platform, but Dexville raised a hand to stop him. For 3 centuries I have sought a worthy opponent, Kalthara continued. Your species claims to possess skills that deserve recognition. I challenge you to prove this claim through honorable combat. The hall erupted in excited whispers. Jake could see the anticipation in every crystalline face. This was what they had been waiting for. Not a cooking demonstration, but a chance to see humans humiliated by their greatest warrior. I don't understand, Jake managed to say. I'm here to cook, not fight. Cooking is not a skill, Kalthara replied. It is the preparation of fuel for weak bodies. If your species wishes respect, you must earn it through strength and honor. High Commander Vexler, the largest of the High Council, leaned forward. The challenge has been issued according to our laws. You may accept or refuse, but know that refusal will be seen as cowardice. Your species will be judged accordingly. Jake's mind raced. Refuse and humanity would be branded as cowards. Accept, and he would likely die in the next few minutes. Either way, the diplomatic mission would fail. What are the terms? Jake asked. Single combat until one opponent yields or falls, Kalthara said. You may choose your weapon, as is traditional for the challenged party. Jake looked at his knife roll, then at the towering alien warrior who had never lost a fight. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to refuse, to find some way out of this impossible situation, but 15 years of working under pressure had taught him one thing. When everything went wrong, you didn't panic. You adapted, you found a way to make it work. I accept your challenge, Jake said, his voice steady despite the terror coursing through his veins. And I choose my weapon. He reached into his knife roll and withdrew his 10-inch chef's knife. The blade caught the light and threw it back in sharp flashes. Around the hall, Zephyrians began to whisper among themselves, some clearly offended by what they saw as mockery. Kalthara's 4 eyes narrowed as she studied the blade. "You would face me with a tool for preparing food?" Jake tested the knives. Balance, feeling the familiar weight settle into his hand. "This blade has never failed me. If I'm going to fight, I'll do it with the weapon I trust most." The hall fell silent again. Even the High Council seemed surprised by the human's choice. Kalthara drew her own weapons, 2 curved blades that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. "Very well," she said. "Let us see if your food-making skills can save you from death." The combat circle formed around Jake and Kalthara as the Zephyrians cleared the platform. The crystal floor beneath their feet began to glow with soft light, marking the boundaries of their fighting space. Jake gripped his chef's knife and tried to calm his racing heart. Kalthara moved like liquid mercury, her forearms flowing in patterns that made Jake dizzy to watch. She held 2 curved blades, each one longer than his entire knife. Her other 2 arms remained free, ready to grab or strike. She had been fighting for 3 centuries. Jake had been cooking for 15 years. "You still have time to yield," Kalthara said, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "I take no pleasure in killing those who cannot defend themselves." Jake rolled his shoulders and adjusted his grip on the knife. The weight felt right in his hand, exactly the same as it did when he was breaking down a side of beef or filleting. "A large fish. I didn't come this far to give up now." Captain Grant shouted something from the edge of the platform, but Jake couldn't make out the words over the blood rushing in his ears. The hundreds of Zephyrians watching from the galleries were completely silent, waiting to see their champion destroy the weak human. Kalthara began to circle him, her movements smooth and controlled. Jake turned with her, keeping his knife between them. He had no idea how to fight with a blade, but he knew how to move with one. Balance was everything. Control was everything. The first attack came faster than Jake could follow. Kalthara's primary blade swept toward his chest, while her secondary weapon aimed for his legs. Jake's response was pure instinct, the same motion he used to remove the backbone from a salmon. He stepped to the side and brought his knife up in a sharp arc. The clash of metal on crystal rang through the hall. Jake's blade caught Kalthara's sword just above the hilt, deflecting it away from his body. The alien warrior's second blade whistled past his knee. Missing by inches, Kalthara pulled back, her 4 eyes showing surprise. "Interesting, you move strangely for a warrior." Jake didn't respond. He was breathing hard already, and the fight had barely started, but something had happened in that first exchange. His knife had moved exactly where he wanted it to go. The motion felt natural, like deboning a chicken or carving a roast. The second attack was more complex. Kalthara used all 4 arms this time, her blades spinning in deadly patterns while her free hands tried to grab Jake's weapon. Jake found himself moving without thinking, his knife work becoming a dance he had practiced thousands of times. Duck under the high blade, just like avoiding the overhead pot rack in a busy kitchen. Twist away from the grabbing hand, the same motion he used to dodge waiters carrying full trays. Bring the knife up to block the low cut, exactly like he did when protecting his cutting board from clumsy prep cooks. The watching Zephyrians began to murmur among themselves. This was not how their battles usually went. Human warriors were supposed to be slow and clumsy, easy prey for superior alien fighters. But Jake moved with a precision they had never seen before. Kalthara pressed her attack, her blades moving faster and faster. Jake's world narrowed to the space around his knife. He could feel the air moving as the alien's weapon swept past him. He could sense the timing of her attacks, the rhythm of her movements. It was just like working the line during a busy dinner service. Orders coming in faster than seemed possible, tickets piling up, customers waiting. But if you stayed calm, if you trusted your training, if you let your hands do what they had learned to do, you could handle anything. Jake's knife began to find openings in Kalthara's defense. Not to attack, but to deflect and redirect. When she thrust with her right blade, Jake's knife was there to turn it aside. When she swept with her left, he was already moving out of the way. "You fight like no warrior I have faced," Kalthara said, breathing harder now. "Your movements are wrong but effective." Jake wiped sweat from his forehead with his free hand. "I'm not fighting like a warrior, I'm working like a chef." The alien's confusion was visible on her crystalline features. "I do not understand." "Every motion has to be perfect," Jake explained, still moving to avoid her attacks. "Every cut has to be precise. There's no room for waste, no time for mistakes. The knife goes where it needs to go, when it needs to go there." Kalthara's next attack was her most aggressive yet. She came at Jake with both blades spinning, her free hands reaching to pin his arms. Jake's response was the same motion he used to butterfly a thick pork chop. He dropped low, swept his knife in a wide arc, and came up inside her guard. The tip of his blade stopped just short of Kalthara's throat. Her own weapons were tangled in the position she had committed to, unable to reach him. For a moment, both fighters stood frozen in the deadly tableau. Then Kalthara laughed, a sound like crystal chimes in the wind. "Remarkable. You have placed your blade at my throat, and I cannot counter. In 300 years of combat, no one has achieved such a position." Jake stepped back, lowering his knife. "I didn't come here to hurt anyone. I came here to cook." "Yet you fight with the precision of a master," Kalthara said, sheathing her blades. "Tell me, human, where did you learn such techniques?" "In the kitchen," Jake replied honestly. "Every day for 15 years I've practiced these same movements. Precision cuts, perfect timing, working under pressure. I guess it translates." The hall erupted in surprised chatter. The High Council leaned forward in their seats, clearly shocked by what they had witnessed. No one had expected the human to last more than a few seconds against their greatest warrior, High Commander. Vexler raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "The combat is not finished. A challenge was issued, and it must be resolved." Kalthara looked at Jake, then at her own weapons, then back at the human with his simple kitchen knife. "You speak of precision and timing. Show me more of these techniques." Jake felt his confidence growing. The fear was still there, but it was manageable now. He had found his rhythm, the same way he did when the kitchen got slammed with orders, and everything seemed impossible. "If you want to see knife work," Jake said, "then let's really see knife work." He began to move his blade in patterns that had nothing to do with combat and everything to do with 15 years of professional cooking. The knife flowed through the air like it was cutting invisible ingredients, each motion perfect and controlled. Kalthara watched with growing amazement. "Your blade moves like it is alive." "Like it is part of your body?" "It is," Jake said simply. "A good chef and his knife are one thing, not two. We move together, work together, succeed together." The alien warrior drew her blades again, but this time her stance was different. Instead of attacking, she was studying, trying to understand the human's strange fighting style. "Then show me," Kalthara said, "how a chef fights a warrior." Jake smiled for the first time since arriving on the alien world. "Now you're talking my language." The second round of their duel began with Kalthara changing her entire approach. Instead of overwhelming Jake with pure aggression, she started testing him with precise strikes. Each attack came from a different angle, designed to probe his defenses and find weaknesses. Jake responded the way he would to a complex order during dinner rush. He broke down each attack into its basic parts, just like breaking down a complicated recipe into simple steps. High strike from the right, block and redirect. Low sweep from the left, step back and counter. Grabbing motion with the free hand. Twist away and maintain distance. The watching Zephyrians had never seen anything like this duel. Their combat traditions emphasized power, honor, and decisive victory. But Jake fought like he was solving a puzzle, each move calculated to achieve maximum effect with minimum effort. "You waste no motion," Kalthara observed as they circled each other. "Every movement serves a purpose." "In a kitchen, wasted motion means burned food and angry customers," Jake replied, keeping his knife ready. "You learn to be efficient or you don't last long." Kalthara's next attack came as a series of rapid thrusts, her two blades stabbing toward Jake's chest and stomach simultaneously. Jake's response was identical to the motion he used when trimming fat from a tenderloin. His knife swept in a tight circle, deflecting both weapons while he stepped to the side, but this time, Jake didn't just defend. As Kalthara's momentum carried her past him, he struck back with a quick cut that would have opened a fish from gill to tail. The alien warrior barely managed to twist away, Jake's blade passing so close to her crystalline skin that it left a thin scratch. The hall fell completely silent. First blood to the human chef. Kalthara looked down at the scratch on her arm, then at Jake with new respect. You have drawn blood from Kalthara the Undefeated. In 3 centuries, only 5 opponents have managed such a feat. I didn't mean to hurt you, Jake said, genuinely concerned. I was just trying to stay alive. In combat, intention matters less than skill, Kalthara replied. You have proven you possess both precision and speed. But can you maintain them under true pressure? The alien warrior's next assault was unlike anything she had shown before. All 4 arms moved in perfect coordination, her blades weaving patterns. That seemed impossible to follow. Her free hands struck and grabbed while her weapons cut and thrust. It was like fighting a storm made of crystal and steel. Jake found himself pushed to his absolute limit. Every skill he had learned in 15 years of professional cooking came into play. The hand-eye coordination from julienning vegetables at lightning speed. The spatial awareness from working in cramped kitchen spaces. The ability to track multiple tasks simultaneously while maintaining perfect focus. His knife moved constantly. Never stopping, never hesitating. Block high, redirect low, step back, step forward, always moving, always adapting. It was exactly like working a 12-hour shift during restaurant week, when orders never stopped coming and there was no time to think, only react. The crystal floor beneath their feet began to show scratches from their weapons. Sparks flew when blade met blade. Jake's shirt was soaked with sweat, and even Kalthara was breathing hard from the constant motion. Then Jake saw his opening. Kalthara had committed to a powerful 4-armed attack, all her weapons moving in the same direction. It was the same mistake he had seen countless prep cooks make when they tried to do too much at once. They left themselves exposed. Jake's counter was the motion he used to remove the backbone from a whole fish. One smooth cut that separated what needed to be separated. He dropped low, swept his knife in a precise arc, and came up behind Kalthara's guard. The tip of his blade stopped exactly at the base of her skull, where her crystalline armor was thinnest. One more inch of pressure and the fight would be over. Kalthara's own weapons were twisted around her body, unable to defend or counterattack. Yield, Jake said quietly, his voice carrying clearly in the silent hall. For a long moment, Kalthara didn't move. The greatest warrior in Zephyrian history stood defeated by a human chef with a kitchen knife. The implications of this moment would ripple across the galaxy. I yield, Kalthara said, her voice filled with wonder rather than shame. For the first time in 300 years, I have been beaten in single combat. Jake stepped back and lowered his knife, offering his hand to help the alien warrior straighten up. You're an incredible fighter. I got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with this victory, Kalthara said, accepting his assistance. You have shown skills that rival any warrior I have faced. Your blade work is unlike anything in our traditions, but its effectiveness cannot be denied. The High Council rose from their seats, all 6 of them staring at Jake with expressions of shock and growing respect. High Commander Vexler was the first to speak. Human, he said, his voice carrying. Across the silent hall, you have defeated our greatest champion in honorable combat. By the laws of our people, you have earned the right to speak for your species. Jake looked around the hall at hundreds of crystalline faces, all focused on him. The weight of representing all humanity settled on his shoulders like a heavy apron at the start of a long shift. I didn't come here to fight, Jake said, raising his voice so everyone could hear. I came here to cook, to show you that humans have skills worth respecting. Today I use those same skills in a different way, but they're still just cooking. Skills. Cooking skills? Vexler leaned forward. You speak of food preparation as if it were equal to warrior training. Every day for 15 years, I've practiced precision with a blade, Jake explained. Perfect cuts, exact timing, working under pressure that would break most people. I've coordinated teams, managed chaos, and created something beautiful from raw ingredients. That takes skill, that takes dedication. That takes honor, Kalthara nodded slowly. I begin to understand. Your people do not train for combat, but you train for excellence in your chosen crafts. The discipline is the same. The dedication is the same. We are all warriors in our own way, Jake continued. Some of us fight with swords. Some of us fight with words. Some of us fight to create something better than what we started with, but we all fight. The hall erupted in excited conversation as the friends discussed what they had witnessed. Their entire understanding of human nature was being challenged by a chef with a kitchen knife. Hi. Commander Vexler raised his hand for silence. Chef Jake Martinez of Earth, you have given us much to consider. Your victory today has proven that your species possesses qualities we had not recognized. We would hear more of these human skills. Jake smiled, finally feeling like the mission might actually succeed. Well, if you want to see real skill with a knife, let me show you how to properly prepare a meal. The red dust of Kepler 442 be-swirled around Maya Rodriguez as she crouched behind a broken piece of alien machinery. Her rifle felt heavy in her hands, but not as heavy as the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She was the team leader for this mission, and 3 other Marines depended on her to get them home alive. Target building is 200 meters ahead, whispered Corporal Danny Kim through the comm system. I count 12 guards patrolling the perimeter. Maya studied the Krillian fortress through her scope. The alien structure looked like a giant metal spider crouched on the moon's surface. Its 8 legs were actually weapon towers, each one capable of destroying a human ship with a single shot. The main body housed the command center where the aliens planned their attacks on human colonies. Remember, we're here to gather information, not start a war, Maya said into her microphone. Get the data and get out. That's the mission. Private. Lisa Chun shifted nervously beside her. Lieutenant, what if we run into trouble? Then we handle it, Maya replied. But let's hope we don't have to. The team moved forward in silence. Each Marine knew their job. Danny would watch their backs while Lisa worked on the computer systems. Sergeant Alex Price would plant the listening devices while Maya secured the area. It was supposed to be a simple in-and-out operation. The first sign of trouble came when they reached the outer wall. The guards weren't where they were supposed to be. Maya felt her stomach tighten with worry. Either the intelligence was wrong or they were walking into a trap. Something's not right, she whispered to her team. Stay alert. They climbed over the wall using special equipment that absorbed sound. Maya dropped to the ground first, then helped the others down. The fortress was quiet. Too quiet. Even for a night operation, there should have been more activity. They made it to the main building without being spotted. Lisa quickly connected her computer to the alien data port while the others kept watch. Maya stared at the towers above. The weapons were pointed outward, ready to destroy any human ship that came too close. Got it, Lisa said after 5 minutes. All their attack plans are right here. This is better than we hoped. Good work, Maya said. Alex, are the listening devices in place? All set, Lieutenant. We can hear everything they say from now on. Maya felt a moment of relief. The mission was going well. Too well, she realized. Her Marine training had taught her to be suspicious when things went perfectly. The enemy was smart. They didn't usually make it this easy. We need to move, she said. Something feels wrong about this. As they headed back toward the wall, the trap was sprung. Bright lights suddenly flooded the area, and Krillian soldiers emerged from hidden positions. The aliens were 7 feet tall with thick scales and glowing yellow eyes. They carried weapons that could cut through human armor like paper. Run, Maya shouted. The team scattered in different directions. Maya heard the distinctive whine of alien energy weapons as they fired. She rolled behind a metal container and returned fire. Her bullet struck two of the aliens, but more kept coming. "Denny, report," she called into her comm. "I'm hit, but I can move," came the reply. "Lisa and Alex are heading for the extraction point." Maya saw three aliens moving to cut off her team's escape route. She made a split-second decision. Instead of running, she stood up and opened fire on the aliens. Her rifle barked steadily as she advanced, drawing their attention away from her teammates. "Go, get to the ship," she ordered. The aliens turned, their weapons on her. Maya dove and rolled, using every piece of cover she could find. She heard the roar of engines overhead as the extraction ship arrived. That was good. Her team would make it home with the intelligence they had gathered. An energy blast hit the ground near her feet, throwing her against a wall. Maya felt pain shoot through her ribs, but she kept fighting. She had to buy more time for her team to escape. "Maya!" Danny's voice crackled through the comm. "We're on the ship." "Where are you?" "Getting the aliens' attention," she replied, firing. At another group of soldiers, "Tell Captain Morrison the mission was a success. The data is everything we hoped for." She heard the ship's engines getting louder as it prepared to leave. Maya smiled grimly. Her team was safe. That was what mattered. The smile faded when she saw General Vorthak himself emerge from the main building. The alien commander was larger than his soldiers, with darker scales and scars that told the story of many battles. Around his neck hung a collection of metal tags that Maya recognized immediately. Dog tags. Human dog tags taken from dead Marines. Vorthak pointed directly at Maya and spoke in the harsh Krillian language. His soldiers moved to surround her position. Maya looked at her rifle and counted her remaining ammunition. Not enough to fight them all. The general wanted her alive. That was clear from the way his soldiers were moving. They could have killed her already if that was the plan. Maya realized she had been set up from the beginning. The aliens had known about the mission and had let her team gather the intelligence. They wanted to capture the leader. Maya's last shot took down another alien soldier before her rifle clicked empty. She dropped the weapon and drew her sidearm, but energy nets fell from above, wrapping around her body. The nets sent electric shocks through her system, making her muscles lock up. As darkness closed around her vision, Maya saw General Vorthak walking toward her. The human dog tags around his neck caught the light from the fortress towers. Maya counted at least 20 tags from Marines who had died fighting his forces. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness was the general's cold yellow eyes staring down at her. She knew that look. It was the look of someone who enjoyed causing pain. When Maya woke up, she was chained to a chair in a dark room. General Vorthak sat across from her, his clawed hands folded on a metal table. The dog tags hung from his neck, like trophies. "Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez," the general said in perfect English, "welcome to my fortress. We have much to discuss."